Today we have one of the top GameFi platforms in the world in the history of Web3 here. Jon Monahan from Splinterlands, VP of Sales, is going to be giving us an introduction. We're going to be running through all things talent, GameFi, and card games today. Jon, welcome.
Yes, thank you for having me, Ignacio.
And could you give us a little bit of background in your own words about what is Splinterlands?
Yeah, Splinterlands is a collectible card game that launched on blockchain from the very get-go over 4.5 years ago now. So 4.5 years ago in this space, I would consider it to still be very early right now. It was very, very early then. And launching a game on blockchain was pretty rare. And so, basically the origin of Splinterlands was effectively two guys who met each other. They were crypto enthusiasts. They were also gaming enthusiasts. And one of their favorite games was Magic the Gathering. And so, they saw the benefits that blockchain can provide with digital ownership and decentralization and thought, hey, what if we made a really cool game that we would love to play and use blockchain to do it? And that's where Splinterlands got its start.
I love that. I spent countless hours playing Magic with my friends growing up. And this is exactly what Splinterlands reminds me of if it was digitized, ready for today. But I think it's so cool that it combines gamification and digital board game and card game with NFT collectability, right? And that's where I think the innovation is, and you guys are first movers, and that represents your market share. What could you say about your growth and how things have gone for you guys in 2022?
Yeah, so growth has been pretty much a constant, right? Obviously, this is a volatile space here in these nascent stages. But we have kind of figured out some of the keys to longevity, and we've made it through bear markets before, right? Like this is not new for us. But the keys to it are, one, we view ourselves as an entertainment company first and foremost. If we produce real value in the form of entertainment, in our case, then that has value independent of the monetary aspect of cryptocurrency and NFTs. And the other thing that we do quite well is building a community, right? So we have a large community of enthusiastic users. We have close to 1 million unique active wallets. We're running about 200,000 daily active users. And they tend to stick with us even through these tough times. The tough times for us, what it basically equates to is it makes it a little bit more difficult to attract a lot of new users into the ecosystem. But we also don't lose many of the users that we've attracted in the past bull cycles. And so that's been very fortunate for us. And as long as we continue to produce real entertainment and we continue to focus on taking care of our community, I think we'll be in pretty good shape.
I love that, and that really resonates with, I think, any big project that has had longevity in this space is because their core mission wasn't speculation, and and at the end of the day, providing value to users is the real use case. Something I would love your take on is in terms of adoptability, right? How we get the next billion users. I know you have some exciting platform updates coming up, but do you make it would you say that the whole user base is Web3 natives, or you're attracting people that haven't basically maybe gone into the crypto or NFT craze and they're coming into Web3 because of the gamification and really the card game, and that's how the gateway into it?
Yeah, I mean, we have some of the latter. It's not entirely Web3 natives, but in these earlier stages, the Web3 natives are the ones that tend to get this, and they come in and they do it. We focus a lot of time and attention on, how do we make this easy to use for Web2 users coming in? And it's a flawed experience, but it's also a better experience than most other Web3 projects that I know of. There's a few things to that, right? So one is, we're pretty careful to call it's a collectible card game. So staying away from some of the buzzwords and the terminology that those of us who are in the space love to use, I think makes it a little bit less intimidating for Web2 users that want to come in. And then also the blockchain that we happen to be running the game on, which is called Hive, is uniquely suited to what we do, and it's very friendly for those coming in from Web 2 as well. So, for example, when you go to create your Splinterlands account, you choose an in-game name, a username, And in the case of Hive, that username is also your wallet address. And so instead of having the big long random strings of numbers or big long string of random numbers and characters, you have your username as your wallet address. And you effectively don't even necessarily need to know that you're on chain, running transactions. You can come in and just play the game. But that said, we have some exciting improvements that continue to come down the pike that will continue to make it more and more friendly for Web2 users. And we want to be a part of this process of mass adoption. And we want to help drive across that chasm into the early majority for sure.
I completely agree with you. I think usability is the next iteration, the next cycle of adoption is going to be driven by companies that have easy use cases and UI and UXs, right? That consumers can easily use and enjoy, because we've made this mistake in Web3 of like putting, this NFT, DLT, try to explain the technology to everyone, when at the end of the day, most users of any technology just want the magic of the features that it provides versus, long-winded explanations of or hard to use products. And that brings me to my next question is, I know that you guys are bringing, you've had incredible growth. You have an amazing community, and I know you're going to leverage this to also help mass adoption by creating a platform, right? So
yeah,
can you tell
absolutely.
us a little bit more about what's coming down?
Yeah, so Splinterlands, having been around for 4.5 years and running as many transactions as fast as it does, and without any gas fees, makes it extremely scalable. And so we realized some time back that this platform, with 4.5 years of development put into it, is really, really good, and can handle the scale and the speed and the go-to-market time and everything else quite well. And so about a year ago, we started to reformat the platform itself. And it's, as you might imagine, it was a lot of kind of custom stuff that was bolted together originally. But we reformatted and came out with a new version of it that Splinterlands is now running on as well, that is much more modular and now opens the door for us to provide that platform to other projects, companies, brands, IP that wants to launch something in the Web3 space, and they anticipate scale. So we're running millions of transactions a day on blockchain. We've had close to 4 billion battles played in Splinterlands itself. We know that it scales. We know that it handles the volume. We know that it has a lot of speed. And we know that it is, has features to it that are very Web2 friendly. And so we are just now starting to sell this platform as a white labelable enterprise grade software as a service, and we're calling it Invenium. And it's the same platform that runs Splinterlands. We have our first proof of concept running on it right now, which is kind of the second game that we're launching, Genesis League Goals. But it's Genesis League Goals, even though we're our first customer on it. It serves as basically a proof of concept. So if a company wants to come in and launch some sort of gamified experience that involves ownership of the assets within, or ownership over the fan experience, or whatever it is, this platform can handle it. So not just gaming either. It can be, hey, stake this NFT for a chance to win, backstage passes to the concert for your favorite musician, or it can be, hey, the percent of the video library of our content that you get to see is proportionate to the amount of our governance token that you have staked. Things like that, right? Those are all things that this platform can unlock.
That's super exciting. I'm very happy to hear that, you've taken your successful platform and you're now adopting it so that other people can enter the fray versus, I guess that's so Web3, right? You have a winning formula and you want to improve the ecosystem and help other people out versus, if you were a Web2 company, you'd be taking this IP and kind of, hovering over it and not sharing it with anyone and thinking, they want to, just give any value away and capture it all. And, that's what I love about this space. Part of what I love about this space, we're all helping each other out. And that takes me to my next version of questions. And I'd love to hear, for example, we're a talent network. We're all about, professional development and exciting careers. And we believe that Web3 offers an incredible opportunity for people to really, expand their horizons and get on, become pioneers in a very exciting space. So I'd love to hear about your own journey a little bit about how did you get into Web3? Were you, were you in sales at a traditional software company before, gaming? How did you come into the space?
Yeah, definitely. So I started out when I was young at a textbook publishing company of all places, right? Started off in sales there and ended up, working my way up, working my way through the organization over the course of about 7 years, in various sales and marketing roles. But what I was really attracted to at the time was the technology side of the business, and specifically that would be education technology. And so I left, after several years to go and start working at an education technology startup company, which was very attractive and very, very appealing to me. Smaller startup type companies, it's very Wild West. It's very best idea wins type culture, at least at the good ones. And I was kind of intoxicated by that. And so for the rest of my career up until leaving for Web3 was spent in the education technology space, effectively helping to build startup companies. And as soon as we would build it up to a critical mass, typically there would be a sale. I would end up back at a textbook publishing company. And I knew my clock was ticking before I would, it was only a matter of time before I was back out to a new startup. Last year, the CEO of Splinterlands reached out to me. So he's actually a former colleague of mine. We used to work together years ago. And so he co-founded Splinterlands, and he's the CEO here now. His name is Egrid Lighthacker. But he called me up and said, hey, we'd really like somebody to come in here and try to build a sales organization. Would you be interested? And I didn't know much about GameFi at the time. I knew some things about crypto, and I had been, involved in in crypto for a while at that point. But I kind of looked at it like, how you learn a new language. The best way to learn a new language is to go live in the country that speaks it. And so that was kind of the opportunity I had here, was to come into Web3 and spend all day, every day in the space. And that would really be an awesome experience because, I've been a believer in blockchain technology for a long time. I think that it represents the future. It's following effectively the same adoption curve that the internet itself did in the mid-late 90s. And I think that there's just so much potential in the space, and there's so many potential ways that this can be used for good. Of course, we've had the bad actors and the negative headlines, but to me, that's all symptomatic of just the early stages of the space. There's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and that's going to manifest along with zero regulation. The FTXs of the world are able to operate as a completely unregulated bank. So that's a recipe for disaster based on human nature.
Absolutely.
But, the long run is just so bright for the space. I don't have any doubt it's coming.
Fully agreed. And, so my background is in traditional finance. And when I look at what's happened with FTX and all these unregulated centralized finance providers, it's just that what happened to the banks in 2000, leading up to 2008, when there was not enough oversight and there was a lot of people with too much power and cash. It's human nature, as you said. I just think it's degrees of fraud, and actually it just comes down to a lack of oversight and regulation. I completely agree with you there. But I think that people shouldn't be discouraged to entering the space because, as you said, we're still extremely early, and having this knowledge base, it's very useful because there's not that many people in the world with this knowledge base about the next iteration of the internet. And as more and more people come to adopt it, right, these skills become more and more valuable. I'd love to hear a little bit more about, okay, you're building the sales. I imagine you came in because of this new update of the enterprise product that you guys are going to be launching to market, right? Versus Splinterlands itself, which is more consumer focused, right?
It's both. So you're right. So Splinterlands, the game itself is consumer focused. What we do, or where the revenue for the company comes from, is from the initial sale of card packs. So we'll sell a card pack. Just envision Magic the Gathering or some in real life, card collectible. A pack is an NFT in and of itself, and you buy it for a relatively low price. It's $4, and you have 5 cards inside. Then you can basically open the pack, and it mints 5 NFTs, so you get 5 cards that are just there's a percentage chance of getting each type of rarity and a different drop rate. You're guaranteed at least 1 rare card per pack, and so on and so forth. But the way that sales and revenue would go for that type of model, so if we do 1 large card edition per year and 1 small card edition per year, you're gonna have these big peaks and valleys in terms of actual sales. And so what I'll do is I'll help larger investor types or gaming guilds, those that want to participate in the ecosystem, to design larger packages of assets and things like that. But like I mentioned, it's going to be very cyclical. I think, a lot of the value for a true sales function in a real world sense is going to come with this platform, of course. And so, I think that my time and attention will begin to lean heavier and heavier in that direction. However, it's very much both. It is a B2C model like the card packs, but it's also going to be B2B like this white label platform.
Because my question was leading up to, when it comes to building up your sales team, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about it? How does Splinterlands go about, their talent acquisition? What are some of the key aptitudes that they look for as joining a GameFi company, and one of the top ones in the world?
Yeah, more than anything else, this is no nothing too earth shattering, right? Like I think that, having experience in Web3 already is a big plus. However, I think the fundamentals of the type of person that you're looking for are pretty consistent across a lot of other, startups or fast growth type companies. So you want people with wonderful attitudes. You want people that have a very best idea wins type culture. People who aren't afraid to learn new things. People who aren't afraid to fail. And how do they deal with and react to failure? That type of person profiles out to be extremely successful in a space like this, right? Where things are so fast paced and there's new products and new ideas coming out constantly. And it becomes very kind of a cluttered, space, that you have to be able to react to and be able to handle all of those things that can make a lot of other people pretty uncomfortable. So when I think about how to build a team in this space, it's really all about, who are the actual humans that I'm trying to do, and what is their outlook like? How do they think, and how do they react to things? And so, that's not really any different than when I was hiring sales teams in education technology. I think the same thing still applies here. And then you get down to the next layer, and that's where it's like, okay, having Web3 experience already, that's a bonus. That's something that we definitely want, because it'll speed up the learning curve. Having experience in DeFi type stuff, that could be a big bonus as well. If you understand what liquidity pools are and how to trade on decentralized exchanges and things like that, of course that's helpful. But the most important thing is really just to find the right people, put the right people in the right seats on the bus before you start driving the bus.
Fully agreed. And that's exactly right. I think Web3 is a nice to have, but the amount of people with Web3 knowledge and previous know-how is very, very limited. And there's a lot of people fishing in the same pond, so it makes it competitive. So that's why I think converting new people. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, to that point, I think that's part of the big attraction of coming to work in the space, because at some point, this isn't going to be a separate space. This is going to be the space. And so all of these legacy brands and companies and other organizations in Web 2, having that Web3 experience and know-how is going to be extremely valuable to the masses, not just the companies that are in the space early. So anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're completely right. I think that's why we're here evangelizing. The kind of the one, how exciting it is to work in the space because of all the reasons that you named before, right? But number three, how valuable developing this skill set because of how early in the game it is. Basically setting you up for a successful career and advancing your career in the right direction. And something that we're coming to the end of our live stream. Where do you see the future of GameFi on this next iteration post current market conditions? And what's happening with a few blowups, and obviously we're in the middle of a winter. So what do you think the future of GameFi looks like in the next iteration after this cycle?
That's a great question. So gaming is a really interesting and fun space. Over a third of the world's population plays video games. The gaming industry, as it sits on whole right now, is larger than the music business and the movie business combined, and it's growing. The part of gaming that is growing even faster than the rest of gaming is GameFi. Gaming has historically been a launchpad for a lot of technological innovation, and a lot of sort of culture shifts and things like that. I don't think that this next cycle is going to be any different. I've heard a lot of opinions from people that have been in the space for a long time. They think that the next bull cycle, GameFi, is going to be at the top. It's going to be leading everything. I mean, over half of all blockchain transactions already come from games, and I expect that to just continue to grow. So GameFi itself is going to be a lot of fun to watch and to track and to be involved with going forward. And if you look at sort of how the gaming industry views the different business models, this idea that you can sell assets within the game and not just have that revenue coming directly to you one time when the purchase is made, but that you can also have markets and have smart contracts on those NFTs where you're getting residual income as a game studio off of all of the future transactions involving those assets that you initially sold. I think as soon as more of these game studios start to really understand that, they're going to really start buying into the space. In these early stages, you get kind of a very natural and very familiar resistance to something new. If you have a cash cow business, you don't want anybody to come in and disrupt the business model.
Blockbuster to Netflix, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. But at some point, if it's just a better model, the other companies are going to start flying. It's going to be a boulder rolling downhill, right? Like good luck stopping it. It's just going to pick up momentum. And so, I think that's kind of where we are. That boulder's at the top of the hill, and there's just enough people that are discovering, what this really means. And so it's starting to roll down the hill. And when this next bull comes around, the bull could be led by GameFi, but whether or not it is, GameFi is going to be a really interesting thing to watch throughout the next bull cycle.
I'm excited, and I'm happy to say that we have we've partnered up with a few companies to look for help them build up their teams in this space, and completely agree with you. At the end of the day, the Web3 delivers the promise of democratizing ownership a little bit better, right? And Call of Duty is great, but if I why can't I kind of get a little bit of the benefits of these assets that I'm playing with, or that I earn, or my performance, or how engaged I'm with the platform. These are the things that we're trying to change, right? And so GameFi is that democratization for the gaming space, and it needs to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I absolutely love about GameFi and Splinterlands is the education aspect of it, right? So you can come for the game and go have a lot of fun playing the games, but whether you know it or not, you're actually picking up some of the DeFi experience with it as well, and you're going to be able to do that at your own pace in a very non-threatening way. And so I think that it's going to become a tool that a lot of people will use to really familiarize themselves with the space itself and what crypto is all about, what NFTs are really all about.
Love it. So Jon, thank you so much for coming today. This is our end of the year. This is our last 2022 live stream. So thank you very much for coming and telling us about Splinterlands and everything that's coming in store in 2023. Super exciting, and can't wait to see how you guys go.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you having me on the last episode. I wish you could say save the best for last, but given the caliber of many of your other guests, I'm not so sure that fits here. But I appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk a little bit of Splinterlands and what we're doing and Web3 in general.
Appreciate it. And to all the Bondex listening that tune in and will watch this afterward, I just want to say Happy New Year, and I hope you enjoy some great times with your family and friends. And again, start the year strong. Thank you very much, everyone.
Absolutely. Bye-bye. Happy New Year, everybody.